Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Symco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. This is another one of these episodes that you're probably going to want to send it through to your sales team. Maybe you're going to play this in your sales meeting in the morning. This is something that comes from our Sales Fitness online sales training program. And of course, remember, if you like some of the content on this podcast, you know we don't give all the good stuff. You know that we give all the good stuff to people who pay for our Sales Fitness training program. Now, we have some signature programs there. We have the first 90-day program. That's designed for people who just start in the motor trade. We have the masterclass. It might be for people a little bit more experienced, but they need to sharpen the saw or sharpen the axe, as the phrase says. We've got today's service advisor. We've got customers first contact, dealing with the email inquiries, digital inquiries, doing the videos on the car, telephone inquiries, following up unsold customers and prospecting. And that's a structured program. We price it very competitively. It's $299 per person. They get all the content, and it's a structured process to take them through the whole program. But listen, we know lots of you guys like to look at the free stuff, okay? And you play this in the sales meeting. So we're going to give you a little taste of the personality type training that we do on our Sales Fitness program. Now, you may have done a psychometric profile when you were employed into the motor trade, or actually lots of different industries do it. In fact, you might do it when you're recruiting people at the moment, okay? It's like we ask you all these questions, 24 questions. Are you most like this? Are you least like that? And gives you this lovely report about how, well, very accurately sometimes, what that person's like. Where did all those psychometric profiles come from? Well, actually, I've heard so many different stories about where it comes from, and it's kind of like people saying, "Oh, no, we come up with it. No, we come up with it." And I'm not sure of the truth. You just go and Google it. You'll find so much different conflicting information. So I'll just tell you some of the stuff I've heard of where it's come from, and I'll let you decide. The first time, if you go all the way back to Hippocrates, okay? Now, we're talking about 400 BC. Hippocrates, which was the Greek physician, turned around and said there was 4 types of people, 4 humors, I think he called it. The first one, he said, there were people who were sanguine, and those people were enthusiastic, active, and very social. Then he said there were some people who were choleric. They were short-tempered, fast, and sometimes irritable. Then you had the people who were melancholic. Those people are analytical, quiet, often seen as wise. And then he had the people who are phlegmatic, and those people were relaxed and peaceful. Now, that was 400 BC. And if you're thinking about the test that you may have done in the past with the different colors or something like that, it kind of fits in. After that, we've got to go to 1921, and there's a guy called Carl Jung. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, okay? But Carl Jung turned around and said, he was a Swiss psychiatrist. And he turned around and he said, there's different types of people, okay? Thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. But he also talked about the introverted style and extroverted style, okay? But when you actually have a look at his work, there's the 4 different categories that you often see in Discus and Myers-Briggs and AVA and all those other things there. So it's those 4 different types of personality styles. Then we go to 1928, a guy called William Marston came up with the DISC model. Now, he wrote a book, The Emotions of Normal People. Now, you've got to be normal for this one to work then. But what he said is the 4 main categories were dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. So if you ever done the discus profile, it fits into one of those. Then after that, in the 40s, we had a lady called Catherine Briggs. She took all of that information and with her daughter, Isabel Myers, they come up with the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And they kind of put them into different colors there. You had, and by the way, there's lots of different ones out there that they have the reds, which is kind of like the drivers. If you go back to William Masters, you get the yellows, which are kind of like the influencing people, or some of these other tests that happen out there. Okay, the yellows, they're the expressives. Okay, they turned around and said you've had the people that are the analyticals. Some of the tests you've done out there before, they're the greens. Okay, and then you had the blues, which are the analytical. Sorry, the amiables are the greens. Okay. Then you had, I heard in World War II, they had to very quickly identify what people like. Now, they knew there were these 4 different types of people. And the story I heard, and it makes a lot of sense to me, in World War II, they had a lot of round pegs in square holes. Now, what they mean by that is there's some of the gunners in the heat of the battle were freezing to the detriment themselves and the whole crew. Okay. They'd analyze their wreckage after planes been shot down in these B-17 Flying Fortresses and Lancaster bombers, and they just didn't fire. And also some of the navigators were a little bit too gung-ho. Oh, it's this way, we're going the wrong way. So I heard there's 2 psychologists up in Scotland. They were tasked to find out very quickly how someone was going to act within the heat of the battle before they're in the heat of the battle. Because before this, all of these Myers-Briggs and William Marston's and Carl Jung and whatever, they required lots and lots of analyzing the person in their work and in their home, speaking to work colleagues and family and friends to identify what they're like. That's a long process. They didn't have time to do it. On back to the World War II example, the story I heard was there were some navigators were too gung-ho. Apparently, there's one Lancaster bomber crashed after dropping their bombs in Germany because they hit the mountains around Snowdonia in Wales. Now, if you look at a map, how far wrong did that guy get that navigation? The theory is they crossed the English Channel and it was all fogged in. They didn't realize it was there. So they kept on going west. They got to the Bristol Channel, thought it was the English Channel, crossed it, turned right or north, expecting the flat lands around Lincolnshire. They went back into cloud and hit some of the mountains around Snowdonia in Wales. Now, apparently to this day, some of the wreckage is still up there. I think they call it Bomber Alley. Okay, whenever I mention things like that, I will get an email or a text from one of you guys there or WhatsApp saying, no, it's actually on this mountain on whenever it was, okay? But very quickly, round pegs and square holes. So in World War II, they found out that most of our personality traits come back just to 2 main things. That's assertiveness and responsiveness. Now, someone could be high or low on the assertiveness, or high or low on the responsiveness to people. So you know what? Let's have a look at some of these other tests you've done. And more importantly, how can we use them in a selling environment to very quickly identify what type of customer is in front of you, confirm it is that type of customer, but more importantly, how do you deal with that type of customer? So when we do this, I want you to think about some of your work colleagues, some of the people, some of your salespeople in your team, maybe your boss, your partner, your children, and start thinking about the people and what they're like. So let's take the first axis of this, assertiveness. Someone could have high or low on the assertiveness. I'm going to take someone like Hitler. Now, I'm only going to use that because it's such an extreme case, okay? Would it be fair to say he's probably high on the assertiveness? I think so. He went and invaded all the countries and done all that sort of stuff. Probably. Here's the next one. on the responsiveness to people, was he more task or more people orientated? Arguably, you might say he's more task orientated. Okay. He was more interested in getting the task done than people, his own people as well. So we'd probably say he would be low on the assertiveness. Now, I know that most of you people are listening to this, driving to work or going for a run or something like that. And again, if you look at our sales fitness program, we'll show you on the graph exactly how this works. But imagine a matrix. So you've got high on the assertiveness and lower on the responsiveness to people. They would call those people on the top right-hand box there, well, depending on which test you've done, okay, but they would actually call those people the drivers, okay? Some of the tests you may have done in the past, they're called the reds. At Symco training, we call them the lions. And the reason why we call them that animal is very quickly for us as salespeople to work out how to deal with that particular animal. Now, listen, on a podcast in the future, we're going to talk all about these drivers, the reds, the lions, how to identify them when they walk in, what their dress is like, how they talk, okay, their conversations, but more importantly, how to ask for the business for those people. Then you have some people there who are probably like myself. If you've ever been on one of our training courses, I'm probably higher on the assertiveness, but probably high on the responsiveness to people. They would call those people there the expressives. Some of the tests you've done in the past, they might call them the yellows, okay? At Symco training, we call them the puppy dogs. Because what's a puppy dog actually looking for? The attention, the pat on the back, okay? Then you've got maybe someone like your host in the business, okay? And these people tend to be lower on the assertiveness. Now, of course, whenever I say stuff like that, people say, you haven't seen our host, okay? So I'm generalizing here, okay? But if you've got someone that's lower on the assertiveness, it doesn't mean they don't know what they want, okay? They just want to achieve it in a different way. They don't yell and rant and rave and scream. But actually got someone very, very high on the responsiveness to people. Some of these tests would call them the amiables, okay? Some of the tests you've done in the past, they call them the greens. We call them the mouse. The mouse is the customer that might be a little bit more apologetic, okay? Quieter, softer. And again, we're going to talk about how to identify that person, that customer, on the next one of these. Otherwise, this will go on and on and on, okay? Then we've got the analytical people. Now, they're the people that you get people in the accounts department, sometimes very technical people there. They tend to be lower on the assertiveness. Now, again, you might say, well, our financial director is very high on the assertive. Well, let's talk about that. Does he actually come in and yell and rant and rave and scream? Or is he more likely just to send an email and say, that's not acceptable? Okay. They might still know exactly what they want, but it's how they achieve it. Okay. And they might be lower on the responsiveness to people. Okay. Responsiveness. Those are the people, they're called the blue people, the analytical people. Can you guess what animal we call them? Well, at Symco training, we call them the snakes. Not because they're slimy, beady-eyed people, because a snake analyzes its prey. A snake has no teeth to rip flesh off. Okay, so a snake will only attack something it knows it can win. In fact, sometimes you see on these TV programs, there's this young girl, 10-year-old girl, and there's this huge snake wrapped around her neck. And Emma, my wife, will say, oh my goodness, what were those parents thinking? That snake could kill her whenever it wanted. Maybe it could, but it never will because it knows it can't eat her. Okay. In fact, I've had a few people on training courses that have kept snakes over the years. And I've heard this story a few times. I don't Again, I don't know if it's true there, but I can imagine it's true. I've heard stories where the snake was not eating. They took it to the vet because they were worried about the snake, and they said, "Oh, it's still very friendly. It goes into the kid's bedroom. And it lies down beside the kids when it's sleeping." And apparently, the vet says, "Get that snake out of the house right now," because it's just sizing the child up, working out when it can eat it. It stopped eating because it's making space to try and eat it. Now, again, I don't know why anyone would want to keep a pet snake. But a snake, the point is, it'll only it'll only attack something it knows it can win. It analyzes. I'm guessing because it doesn't want to waste venom or energy because it's a cold-blooded animal. So what we've got here, we've got the lions, the puppy dogs, the snakes, and the mouse. Now, I like the World War II approach because you just need to look at two things to identify what that customer's like: high or low assertiveness, high or low responsiveness to people. And I'll put you into one of these boxes. Now, guys, this, of course, is an oversimplification. It's not fair just to put people into one box, because these real tests, they measure how much we have on each one of those. They tend to give you a percentage, okay? Some people have like a dartboard and they put a dot wherever they are, okay? Now, also, these real tests, they measure what you really like on the inside and then how you portray yourself at work. You see, most people see me in a training environment as the expressive yellow, the puppy dog. That's why I do this for a living. But a good friend and client of mine, Mr. Paul Tench, I was doing some training with his group recently. He said, "Oh my goodness." Now, Paul has known me from a good, 5 years before I actually was doing some work with his dealer group. Okay. He knew me on a personal level. He said, "You know what, Simon? You're completely different down the airfield than what you are when you're training. It's like a different person because deep down inside, I'm truly a lion." You speak to some of the guys that work with me, they say, yeah, working for you, Skip, you're definitely a lion. Okay. But at work, most people see me as that puppy dog. So these real tests measure what you really like on the inside and how you portray yourself at work. So what we do is on the sales fitness program, and when you do our training programs, we'll get people to analyze themselves first, but you can quickly do it now. You can be high or low on the assertiveness. What are you? High or low? Now, I want to talk about that. Okay. Doesn't mean you don't know what you want, but let's take it. You and your partner want to go and watch a movie. Okay. You want to watch Oppenheimer, but your partner wants to watch Barbie or vice versa. The high assertive person would say, "I'm not watching Barbie. I'm not watching that. No, we'll go and watch this." Okay. The low assertive person might get what they want, but by getting the other person to want to do it. Well, yeah, okay, we could go and watch that. But you know what? Margot Robbie's in Barbie and it finishes earlier, so we can get a meal as well. They still know what they want, though, but they might get it in a different way. So assertiveness, you can have high or low on the assertiveness. It's the same as the responsiveness to peopleness. Now, they never called it peopleness. That's just how I understand it in my little pea brain, okay? They said responsiveness. But actually, you might have someone that's such a generous, nice person, but they're almost shy, okay? You might have someone who is a con artist, okay? They're so gregarious. They're over the top. There's so much peopleness, but actually they're not a nice person. Okay. You see some people out there, these con artists, there's great movies like Wolf of Wall Street. Okay. Listen, I know that Jordan Belfort runs his own sales training company. He's been to prison. He's paid his dues there. But so many times I get brand new salespeople say, "Oh, the movie Wolf of Wall Street. I love that. I want to be like that." I went, "Really?" And actually, even I think now that he wouldn't even do that either, because I say, really, let's think this through. Okay. He ripped people off for a living. He went to jail over it. That's documented. Okay. The people he ripped off was pensioners. Okay. the grandmas had the big pot of money. Wasn't he paid something like 100% commission? So they took $100,000 of grandma's life savings and they got $50,000 commission. Grandma's shares had to go up really, really well, didn't they? Okay. But I say, think about this through. He was doing back in the 80s where they didn't have Google reviews. If you upset one person, did he have to sell them more shares? What, America's what, 250 million people at the time there? Okay. In the motor trade, anyone could sell one car. We don't want to do that. We want to sell people their second, their third, their fourth car. We have Google reviews, Trustpilot nowadays, okay? We want to sell people the next car, the next car, next car. But the point I make is he was very high on the peopleness, but maybe not that nicer person at the time. Now, I know he's reformed, okay? I'm going to get a lot of abuse on this one. This is from his own mouth, he said that, okay? But then the flip side, you might get someone that's so shy, but outside of work, they donate all their time to helping charities and people. In fact, I tell you what, The Wolf of Wall Street, maybe here's the real reason why I struggle with that one. I'd never seen the movie. Okay, I had lots of salespeople in movies. Oh, Skippy, The Wolf of Wall Street. You're going to love it. You've got to watch that movie. In fact, I've had a few people say, you remind me of him. I never watched the movie. I sat down with my darling wife. Before we clicked play, I said, you know, a lot of people say they remind me of him. It starts off a scene where he's sniffing cocaine off the body of a hooker. And Emma said, and why do people say they remind you of him? I don't know. But listen, when you do this, okay, I want you to think, where are you honestly on your responsiveness to people? So many salespeople say, I want to be high on the responsiveness of people. I want to be high on the assertiveness. Let me tell you, guys, there's no right and wrong in this. I've seen great salespeople who are the analytical snakes of the blues. I've seen great salespeople who are timid, soft, smiling assassin mouses. I've seen great salespeople are the red, the drivers, the lions. I've seen great salespeople in all of them. In fact, let me tell you about two people. One is the most timid mouse I ever come across. I heard this with my own ears. Is a salesperson called Anil. He was in a Honda dealership. I've actually heard him say that. He put a deal in front of the customer. He very assumptively went into, and the great news, Mr. Customer, I'll be able to have that car ready for you on Thursday. To which point the customer said, oh, no, Anil, we're really not happy with that £8,500 car. Very softly, timidly, Anil said, yes, it's a sad fact that vehicles do depreciate, but that's the market value on your car. Now, on the new car, as I said, I'll be able to have that ready for you on Thursday. The customer said, no, Anil, we really don't like that $8,500 for our car. I understand that, sir, but we do work within a market. We don't create the market. Now, as I said, the new car, if we aim for Thursday on a delivery, no, Anil, we really don't want to take that. Well, that's fine, sir. If you want to sell the car yourself, that's fine. But please bear in mind, to get to that payment, we will need clear funds of that $8,500. As I said, on Thursday, I promise you guys, the husband turned around to the wife. He shrugged and then he said, sorry, what time on Thursday? Now, guys, let me tell you, I could never in a million years pull that technique off. The only reason Anil could do that is because he was a lovely, timid mouse. The flip side, I've seen another salesperson say, great, thank you very much for that. Can we go and think about it? Well, no, sorry. Quite frankly, no. Listen, we took the car for a drive. You did something to get the figures right. That's the car you like to be driving the next 2 or 3 years. So come on, be honest with me. There's one of these figures you don't like. Which one don't you like? Now, here's the point. They both sell the same number of units, but they just do it in a completely different way. So guys, what we're going to do is I just wanted to give you the foundations of this one. And we're going to do each one of these. We're going to talk about how to identify that customer, okay, what their character traits are, but probably more importantly, how are you going to deal with them? What closing techniques, what objection handling techniques can you use for that customer? We're going to do these in small little episodes, so you can go back and have a listen to it. You can send it through to your salespeople because they know how to deal with that customer. Now, managers, listen to this. We haven't got time to go into all the management training, obviously, okay? But listen, on our sales fitness program, we go into the depths on that type of person there. So over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about these different types of customers and how to specifically deal with that customer. What closing questions we would use. How do we identify them? How would we overcome their objections? So let's see you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.